Hi, everybody. You should be able to record too. And
Oh,
if
it's
not,
not
I'll
letting
file.
it. That's fine.
It probably only lets one of us. Okay.
Yeah, no worries at all. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Keeping It Spiritually Simple. Today, I am honored to have Miss Laura Eisenhower, and her name speaks for herself and all the work that she's done. But instead of getting into a lot of the things that she videos and talks about and has on her website, we're going to talk about the astrology of the climate that we're in right now. And also, Laura recently did my chart, and it was freaking amazing. And because I'm part of her group, I get to come back and have a touch up here in another 2 months. So if you have an opportunity, I suggest you hit one of the links below that we'll include, and you can have a session with her as well. So hello, Laura.
Hello, Sandra. Great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
I know it's funny, you and I have been trying to do this now for a year, and we are connected in a couple different ways. One is you lived in the same town I live in, and then it was my great uncle sold your great grandfather his farm in Gettysburg.
It's wild.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
So literally in utero, before we were in utero, our families were stomping on the same soil. So anyway, let's talk about what it was like for you growing up, getting into astrology and all that stuff. When and where did you decide to reach out to that? Or was that just something that was the moon and the stars were?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. And everybody, I'm going to put her links in the description so that you can follow her channel because she's doing just a lot of amazing work. Yeah, gosh. Well, my mission got real obvious to me at a young age, and I had a lot of questions and a lot of questions about myself on a soul level. And I just went down the path of self-discovery through things like the I Ching, working with Tarot, and then learning astrology to really just help develop myself, to really help to get to know myself and understand the patternings I'm working with, to understand my mission on a larger level and the things that I need to work on and heal, which astrology provides. And then when I started to learn galactic history, learning charts really helped me to understand how planets are manipulated with certain technologies like the Saturn moon matrix, how that impacts a person's chart, because there's so much more to the picture than just the star maps that we were given. To me, it's a map that helps us to get back into the 0-point unified field once we get a grip on understanding the patternings and also things like our north and south node. So then once I kind of understood it for myself, I felt very comfortable giving readings to others and also referencing a lot of things about astrology in my presentations. One being the fact that the sun started to move through the 13th sign of Ophiuchus in 2010, which was a major indicator of the mother energies returning and a huge timeline shift that humanity's been working on integrating in the face of a lot of different psyops and a different attempts for them to keep us in reversal mode to kind of keep siphoning humanity on an artificial timeline that I try and help people be aware of so that they can claim their sovereignty and not go down, a road that doesn't lead to a good future. So it's all been an important part of the disclosure exopolitical information that I've been working with, and how I work with others, and how I kind of navigate the craziness of these times where psyops and false flags and a lot of just war on consciousness sort of stuff is something that we have to be very conscious and aware of so that we can navigate these crazy times.
And they are crazy times. I know for me, I was doing tarot cards back in the 80s, and also going to see tarot card readers. And then I've been into astrology since I was an adolescent. On the down under, I couldn't really explain that to my family, but my aunts were into it, so I got into it. And it's always helped me make my next move. It's had me really sink into what's the best choice that I can make for me moving forward. So I think that's what I'm hearing you say you found for yourself, and then you found being able to share that with many others as well.
Yeah, it just helps with clarity because it's very easy to be on autopilot as humans. The more we're just mindful and conscious of the way our patternings are co-creating our reality and how the things coming at us can sometimes, create, challenge. It's good to see where that's coming from. You know, so when I delved into medical astrology, it was really helpful in understanding that the planets have a connection with our organs and our endocrine system and our nervous system, and that we're a replica of like these things going on while we're also born with our own unique map. When we think about unity consciousness, we're actually helping to share these kind of codes and these different unique blueprints in order to rebuild the template of the tree of life, which takes us into our capacity to begin to activate our 12-strand DNA and beyond, and unscramble the fire codes that have been named junk DNA in our school systems and in science. When, to me, and what I've come to learn, this is what the awakening is all about: removing the frequency fences and the distortions that keep us from accessing our full multidimensional nature. So it really just kind of helps do the energy work and not keep looping in patterns, and to move through the initiations that the outer planets provide, so that when it's like time for the Pluto death, rebirth, alchemy, transformation, or Uranus coming in with the shock and upheaval to help us to awaken in whatever sector of our life it might be really putting energy on, or when a transit happens, and then Neptune, which connects us to the creative imagination and the unseen realms and the multidimensional. When we can move through these initiations, we actually advance ourselves. But the system is inverted, so it utilizes their knowledge of the occult and the astrological knowledge that they hold to create psyops and things that weaponize these initiations, so that we end up going backwards instead of forwards. So that's why it's been a very useful tool to understand how they utilize it. Like, for instance, when the North Node was in Gemini, which has to do with the throat chakra, Mercury, and communication, censorship and masking was very much like the narrative being steered. And when the Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter conjunction took place in 2019, that's when the fear of death and all this virus stuff began to be really pushed on people, when in actual fact, these were very initiatory alignments that if we can, stay away from the news, the media, and the distortions, we can initiate beyond all of that and begin to starve that parasitic system and actually advance ourselves as humans.
That's amazing. And you struck a point there about staying away from all the media. I was told through my astrologer back in the 90s that I had to stop watching the news, that I was too empathic. It was affecting me in ways that were going to hinder me. And I'll be daggone, I was raised in a family where you need to read the newspaper and know about current affairs. And I was forcing myself to do that, thinking I could have conversation with other people, but yet I could never relate to the daily news. So when I was told that, it was a relief. It was almost like permission to stop being like everybody else and just continue to just follow my own path. So that's awesome to know that. So what are we doing now? What's happening in our current affairs now? We've got some craziness happening out there.
There's craziness happening. It's so funny that you brought up, not watching the news. Sometimes I will look at a news feed, like on social media, like what sort of headlines they're pushing on people, just to understand the climate that we're dealing with. Not so much to like take it seriously, but just to more be the observer. And it's shocking, the headlines that I'm reading, like a 4-year-old being arrested in Mountain View, California for not wearing a mask, or J-Lo accepting her daughter's pronoun change to they, them. And now I'm like, this is headline news. Like, seriously? I mean, like, look at the world we're in right now. All the just craziness that we see. It's just like, what a digression of the human psyche, and anybody that attaches themselves to it. It's like the cognitive dissonance and just the way that the media really has overtaken the minds of so many individuals blows my mind literally every day. And then I got to shut it down because it kind of makes me all ramped up and like, this is crazy. But as far as the current climate, man, God, this last week has been, I've been working so much energy, and I don't always check where the planets are. I used to, but when it's really, really necessary, I get like a major intuitive hit. Excuse my voice, everybody. I'm a little hoarse. I get a major signal intuitively, like you need to like be on top of this week and know what the astral climate is. And I used to check more regularly, and I'm going to get back into being more consistent. But so much going on this week. It started the week with Mercury making a harmonious aspect to Pluto, but Mercury's been in retrograde. So big, deep dives into kind of life reviews, going into very, very deep layers of the self, major, major processing happening, which has brought us into, with the sun moving into Virgo and other things like that. Friday, we had Mars square the sun, and Venus square Uranus and Mars being in Gemini, which hits on the Mercury in retrograde, which is the ruler of Gemini, with the Pluto aspect. It's just wow. I know for a lot of people it's like, okay, what is she talking about? What is she talking about? Well, the moon, when it squares, excuse me, when the sun squares Mars, it can really bring up a lot of anger. So if you guys have found yourself feeling really aggressive or just wanting to scream and yell and just kind of like purge out all the stuff that you might be finding yourself connecting into within your own being because of this kind of deep dive that Mercury's taking us into the plutonic abyss, into the dark night of the soul, into the creative cauldron, which we are reclaiming. Instead of it being like the hell realms or the underworld, we are literally learning how to be more conscious co-creators of this reality. But we are being so challenged right now to not exist in lower patternings or behavior patterns that keep us in poor health or looping negative patterns, whether it's addictions or behavior patterns that keep us in disharmony in our partnerships and relationships. So as of today, we've moved into a new moon of Virgo, with the sun being in Virgo. So if people like have felt like this huge surge to really get healthy and organized, this is a great seed planting day to really, I call it like the planet of getting your shit together. Excuse, I hope I'm
Yeah, I love it.
because like right now it's like I'm dusting, I'm organizing, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you Virgo, I've needed you because things have kind of fallen into chaos, and I'm like organizing all the books, all the herbs, and throwing everything away, vacuuming, dusting, and I'm having so much fun doing it. But I'm like, thank you Virgo, I've like needed this, and cutting all bad habits that I might have fallen back into due to stress. You know, just even though I'm like major into nutrition and health, sometimes it's easy to just want to roll that tobacco or maybe have a drink. So me and the family, we're really like on board, and I've just blessed the Virgo energies because it's so important right now that we are working on self-improvement, detoxification, and really preparing our human vessel for a lot of powerful activations that are going to come in as we move into like Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Ophiuchus, and Sagittarius season, which is the time of total alchemical shifting. So this to me is a major window of when bifurcation is truly, truly happening. I've been feeling it so much in my body. Doesn't mean like the timelines are going to split to the point where we don't see that other timeline. I see that there's going to be a lot of bridges between the two as we begin to venture into higher earth energies. But I do see that the one that's kind of going in reversal are really capturing a lot of souls, their minds, their emotions, their fears. And we can only do all we can to help like pull them out of it and inspire them to join us so that they can realize this is a time of reunion. This is a time of awakening. This is a time of getting your power back and learning how to self-regulate and heal yourself and not be in fear of all the crap that they're throwing at us.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, would that also include a lot of memories coming up, like what I want to call like shock memories, like you're doing something and all of a sudden, boom, something from 20 years ago pops in and you literally cringe, like, oh my God, like, I mean, it's like gut wrenching. And you think, oh, I wouldn't have responded or reacted that way before. Please forgive me. I mean, but yeah, but it's come out and tears, just tears, like, oh
my God. It's a time of life review. The Mercury retrograde taking us into Pluto is literally taking us into like processing so much of our past. So if you notice a lot of past energies coming up, it's really coming up to be purged, to be forgiven, to shed unconditional love onto it, and to make corrections if that's a patterning that you're still struggling with. And so, yeah, I've been like monsooning with tears, volcanic, just like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like reliving conversations and events of my life and healing it in my mind and like healing it out of my body. And it's been so profound. I just like sit there at night and I'm just like amazed because I've done a lot of life reviews, a lot of dark night of the soul plunges because my own astro natal chart is very plutonic. But this one is on such a collective level too, that like really going into the records, like and like history, and also the rewritten history and a lot of the lies and distortions that we're working to heal. So we're doing it on a micro level within our own bodies as far as our own memories and past lives, but we're doing it on a collective level when it comes to our ancient history, our galactic history, and the last 26,000 years of a lot of dark cycles of history and what we need to call back and reclaim. So yeah, if people have found themselves like kind of going backwards, well, when that cycle is over, you'll notice that you're being rebirthed and you're being prepared for something enormous. So make sure that you give the time and space for this processing to occur and don't let it freak you out or grab pharmaceuticals or think that you need help. Trust yourself in this process. These powerful initiations are something that we are required to move through. But so many people panic because it's so much and it's so alarming, and it's so intense that we might be like facing depression, anger, and fear. But you don't need to medicate it. Turn to herbs, turn to things that like breathing and meditation and being in nature to really help you move through it, because they like to take advantage of our vulnerabilities during this initiation and kind of pull us into giving our power away so that we maybe ingest things or put things in our body that would numb it or block us from being able to actually work through it. So this is how we exit the matrix. We remember that these are initiations. These aren't things that we need to externalize to the point where we give our power away to tyrannical authority that's looking to actually harm us instead of help us. They're exploiting so many for money, for gain, and it's getting ridiculous. And I'm surprised how ridiculous it still is. But I think that is part of the awakening, that people have to step back and be like, this is nuts. This goes way beyond even common sense. This isn't about politics or conspiracy theories or right and left. This is absurd. And to look at what this is doing to our children, I think parental instinct is really going to start to kick in, because this is just such a war on our children and the innocence. And it breaks my heart to see what they're going through right now. I'm just like,
oh, girl, you feel it as visceral as I do. I think you just get more expressive of it because I think you have more up here to share than, and I'm more like this earthbound, like, just gonna kind of just be with this one a little bit, even though it might feel weird. And I work with the kids, and I work with kids, people of all ages, but with kids, and I've really been working with them, teaching them the breathing techniques and to allow them to just release things. And the more they can do it, the more I can get the parents on board. I'm creating a little bit of balance there within that family stability. But what you were just saying about all this floods of this shock stuff coming up within ourselves and how we feel it in our body, I consider myself a veteran at this, and I'm still getting stumped by a few things that come through. And I will feel it lock up in my body. And I just started dancing recently because I had to unkink what was being stuck. It was so stuck in my body.
Oh, dancing is so great for that. And I mean, I am on a very earth, I mean, in the earth signs, and the new moon in Virgo is really helpful. But yeah, I mean, I've got my own kids, and we got a small farm and a lot of animals, which keeps me functioning on a very earth plane level. But I'm kind of going out into bigger picture, multidimensional, and then really needing to like pull myself back in and stay grounded and trying to integrate the two. But yeah, I know we have a lot in common as far as how we're processing the energies. And I'm stumped because I've done so much energy work, so much processing, so much stuff my whole life. And I'm just like, wow, like this is like a whole nother like mother load of deep plunging into like the purging and transformation of so much that I thought I had cleared. So, but bring it on, because we want to just get it all like where it needs to be. And so the energies are very wonderful at this time to help with it. But this last week, I'm sure a lot of people felt the bumpiness. And with the Uranus square Venus, a lot of relationships were very tested this week. It's either make it or break it kind of week. If you can go the long haul with certain people, you will. And if it's time to move on and move forward, you'll probably feel that there's certain friendships or relationships that just aren't viable anymore. And it's a major testing time on all levels.
Well, I think too that we're flushing wounds seen and unseen. And it's not all about just our physical stature. It's whatever we clear, we're helping to clear for others.
And the whole collective, absolutely.
And so you have to take the time to go in and do that. So I know for me, I've just known that it's more than just me. And even though I'm feeling it, and I look at my supplement cabinet and I go, WTF, how do I take all of this and still feel like a locked up robot? I'm like, this has got to stop.
I've got like walls of herbs, ashwagandha, like everything you could possibly imagine. And I'm still just like, is this just not kicking in? Like, I'm like, I can't imagine what it would be like if I weren't taking it. But our bathroom's like an apothecary of so many herbs and supplements.
Yeah, me too. But that's the thing that we're reaching for, is we're helping to clear ourselves and to clean ourselves and to fortify ourselves, versus getting into that self-medication where we go into a denial state because we step out of our bodies when we begin to take things that are not of the healthiest choice. So while we're going, and Mercury's my ruling planet, and I usually can get through it, but this last month has been I can't even put mascara on because I'm like,
I know, me neither. I'm either laughing so hard I'm crying, or I'm just crying because
yes.
there's so much to cry about. But I absolutely agree. I mean, when we do the inner work and work on ourselves, it not only ripples out to the collective, it helps to clear the elementals of the planet, because we're elemental beings. The nucleic acids of our DNA are elemental. We're made of earth, air, fire, water, ether. So when we cleanse our water energy, our fire energy, our air energy from all the social engineering stuff, our fire energy from misplaced anger that's not being channeled correctly into the creative passion and inspiration, when we clear all that, we're actually clearing the outer elements of the earth. This is how we move into higher earth energies, because we're participating in the cleansing of all this toxicity, all these dark weapons that we're nullifying and neutralizing within our own inner processes by disengaging from feeding it or having energetic cords with it. And that's why it targets us in our minds, so that we give it the life force to enable artificial timelines. It wouldn't have any power unless we gave it power, because it's a vampiric system. So when we call it all back, it begins to starve it, and it begins to be dismantled. So we all have that divine purpose to do.
Yes, we do. And outside of breathing and ingesting, and I don't mean just food and water and supplements, I mean ingesting a new thought process, a new way of feeling about yourself on this earth plane, and that things are bigger than just your stature of your physicality. There's so much more. So in this we have an opportunity right now to flush and clean wounds that we do and don't know about. But it's important that we take that step and commit ourselves to being better each day. So what else would you suggest that our viewers just be aware of right now? Because it's some crunchy times.
I know. Well, it's new moon energy. You really want to get clear with what your intentions are, what your visions and dreams are, and just really work relationship energies. Make sure you are working on healing partnerships, friendships, and helping them to move into greater harmony and a higher vibration of just, just goodness and mutual love and respect. And for those that aren't willing to be on board, don't be afraid to say goodbye, and have boundaries where necessary. We're going to be in just a very interesting astroclimate for a while, but the alchemical nature of Ophiuchus between Scorpio and Sagittarius, that connects us with the ether and the purifying energies and unconditional love of the mother. And that connects us with our mitochondrial DNA, which is also connected to the fifth element, and our throat chakra. So when we speak from our truth, that is a frequency that helps activate people. When we speak from the lower vibrations of social engineering or ancestral patterns or lower ego construct communications, we have to catch ourselves and remove ourselves from being in that world anymore, because that's beginning to split off and take us away from our greater potential that is helping us to upgrade and recognize the fullness of all that we truly are. We're ready, like this, it's time to really advance ourselves. Ascension is no joke, but it's an inner initiation. So, I mean, prepare for just more wacky headlines, but at the same time, it looks like with Lisa Renee's latest newsletter, who it really speaks on the galactic climate of things, a lot of positive things are taking place. But there's going to be more madness that is going to try and distract us away from it at the same time. So just be very careful of getting caught in those webs, and keep your focus on your own inner work, your divine center, your connection with source energy and Mother Earth, and how that relates to the healing of the collective and the purification of the elementals. And really trust yourself and know that we got this. And when you find yourself slip, and you get into that uncomfortable energy, just take the time to breathe through it, to work with it, to utilize writing, painting, singing, dancing to help you kind of work it out of you. Because really, advancing the human vessel means we're tending to the human vessel. And the Virgo energy is really going to help us with that, because it helps us to work on the details of life, our routine, our lifestyle, our physiology, our health and well-being, our connection with nature and animals. So embrace these times. And don't expect it to be comfortable, but find the laughter and humor in it all, because it's getting more and more absurd. And that's why I love, the more absurd the narratives get, the more funny the memes get. So like, don't forget to laugh, everybody.
Yeah, I think people are finding gardening and being with your pets more, and just overall expressions from the heart to get out of this mental state of all this incoming information that you absolutely can't process anyway. So I think we're all in this big mind F game all the time because we're transitioning from being in what everything is mental into what I feel is the heart center. And when we do that, then we're lifting into that spiritual level, and this 3D stuff becomes, in looks and feels, at least to me, so much more mundane and secondary.
Totally.
It's secondary because if I follow my heart and follow and put myself into that, then I find that all this other stuff, chasing the job, making sure I had enough hours, doing this, doing that, you know, it's all like it falls into place
It really
when
does.
you're listening and following the heart
Yep.
and you're breathing through the Divine Mother
Yes.
with that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Really feeling that Holy Spirit sort of breath of life energy, like in that cleansing really powerfully.
Yes.
I mean, we're really divorcing ourselves from the old paradigm, from the false tyranny, false authority matrix. A major divorce, a major like breakup, cutting of the cords to embrace true love and the true essence of our relationship with creation as co-creators, as divine humans. And I know a lot of us have been awakened for a while, and we did that in multiple lifetimes, didn't get caught up in the matrix stuff, that have come to help be the activators. But anyone who finds themselves caught up in it, that feel very fear-based and not knowing how to leave or exit it, really, really trust yourself, because the synchronicities and magic really kick in when you begin to unplug from that and you connect with your own true soul calling and mission. And just know there's a lot of us that will help and assist this transition out of that dark web that is taking people down a trajectory and a future that they don't need to inherit, that is not healthy for them or their children. And there's something much better that you can't destroy. You can only distract yourself away from it. So it's important just to know it's there and align with it, and know that it's about reunion. You'll feel so much more home. It's not something that you have to adopt as a belief system. This is a reunion into your own authenticity and sovereignty. And it'll feel so good once you're over the challenges of letting go and releasing yourself from the things that have held us captive for way too long.
Oh, big time. And so many people are out here trying to grab hold of bits and pieces of what they think is going to occur, up out there, right? And the more information I have about that, the smarter I am about it. But really, in fact, you will get to your destinations with or without a lot of that information. And like you said, if you are stuck, there's people out there. Reach out to Laura, reach out to me. There's tons of people. If we're not right for you, we're going to get you to where you need to go. But we're all here to help each other get unstuck. We're releasing the fascia that's been all locked up in our bodies. And a fascia is another membrane within the body that has so much memory and information too. Are you seeing anything else on the horizon there? She's intense. Look, she's looking.
Wait, with when you say the fascia, you're saying?
No, I was saying the fascia is like, so if you were to take the skin off here, and before you get to the muscle, there's a mucousy thin saran wrap, and it's called fascia, and it gets all blocked up. And there's so much memory in there. There's so much memory in there, but we're all stretching and trying to unlock our information so that we can release what doesn't serve, bring in things that would serve us better, lighten up in ourselves. But then you were looking at something on the chart, and I could tell like you were seeing something like, oh, I better tell him this.
Haha. Well, I mean, it's right back what I was saying about the deep dive into, the underworlds, which is really the creative cauldron, right? So when we look at the magician energy and our higher awareness and connection to source energy and the creative imagination, that's where we draw in our visions, dreams, and intention. And that's where we plant seeds and bring it into the dark, which is like the soil, the soul that generates new life, right? So we're at the time of this season where when we consciously plant seeds about what we want to see in our future, we can bring those ideas and concepts from our higher mind, plant those seeds into our womb, soil, the soul, and trust that it's going to generate and manifest the harvesting of like blooming flowers when spring comes, kind of deal, when the seeds are ready to sprout and ready to see, where these things have come into manifestation. So be very careful of what you let into your space, because you don't want the seeds that you don't want to plant in your being to get infected in your creative channels to where that you're manifesting a future that you do not want. So it's very important to pick the weeds out and all the things that you know you don't want to participate in or feed or have an agreement to or an energetic cording connection to, and do that sort of inner gardening and inner sort of spiritual hygiene work. And you'll be so blown away by what you're capable of manifesting and what this next year will bring for you if you do that conscious work. So I guess that's pretty much it in a nutshell of what you kind of came to me when you said that.
Well, we're spiritual athletes, but we're not practicing all of the things to be the best that we can be, getting over the little hurdles, the sprints, the long jumps, whatever it is. We've got to focus in on that. And when we're sitting around and just living in this my job, my life, it's very dense, because once you get out of that, then you can see the opening pathways of so much more, which puts you back into the heart center. And there was something else I was going to say, but I completely, which doesn't surprise me. One of the things too, I noticed whenever stuff is coming up, it will always hit my vocals, my fifth chakra. And no matter how I am clearing or I'm toning or I'm gargling or whatever it is, I just have to take extra care of what's happening here, because that connects here and here,
Yeah.
And like you said before, that's really hitting that fifth chakra.
Yes, right. So the fifth chakra, to me, when people talk about 5D, to me, that's the bridge, right, to the rest of our multidimensional nature. So we have to be really careful with our words, because that's the magician, right? So when we speak from a low frequency of judgment, blame, shame, victim game, divide and conquer, and we speak that, we are participating in manifesting nothing but a low vibrational timeline and a pretty dismal kind of future, because we are hooked into the psyops and the false flags and the social media manipulations that would drop us into that level of communication. When we can align with our truth, our sovereignty, and that frequency connected to divine source, and we speak those words, we are able to really uplift people, inspire people, and lead by example. We have to be very, very responsible with our words and understand how much our thoughts and our words define our reality and create it much more than we realize. It's sort of like, if you're starting to paint and you have an intention, what you paint is what you're going to see based on what you're tapping into. And that's sort of a micro reality of what we're doing in the world. We're artists of creation. So we have to be very conscious of what we want to paint onto the canvas of life, what we want to speak into reality, and be very careful of going down the road of enabling something that we might look at and be like, that's not pleasant. That's kind of ugly. That doesn't look fun. That looks like it's taking us more and more into enslavement and tyranny and contamination of the innocence of our children and their minds. And we have to be responsible adults and stewards and guardians right now, and know better and be responsible, and get out of the realm of it being political, and really graduate to the next level of how we can think and function beyond the matrix BS, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. And when we're going through the spiritual hygiene, we need to go through our spiritual dietary needs. And if that means you've got to move away from person, place, or thing, you got to do that in order to be more successful on this journey that you're about to take. It's just like if you were going to start something, you have a start date and you begin and you make a list of things and you have things available to you. You've got to do that with your spiritual dietary needs as well. Totally. So reach out to one of us if you need some assistance.
Absolutely.
But I know you got to go, because the goats are probably calling for dinner.
Yes.
And then the kids, and then the hubster.
All right.
I know you got a busy schedule all the time. I'm just so glad we finally were able to do this.
I know, what a fun conversation. Oh my goodness. I look forward to more, and I'm just so glad to know you. And it's so cool that there's so much in common and our stomping grounds being so similar. And I'm sure there's more things that we both know in that area that we have in common as far as contacts and people and just experiences that we've had there. But thank you for having me. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're going to post it on both our channels, and I'll put all her information in the description, and definitely follow her and her work, and keep up the good work. And this has been awesome. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.